One rainy night, long, long ago, a small boy sat with his grandmother and grandfather around a charcoal brazier. Warming their hands over the glowing coals, they told stories and talked of many things. Outside, the wind blew and the rain splattered on the thatched roof of the cottage. The old man looked up at the ceiling and said, I surely hope we don't have a leak. Nothing would be so terrible as to have a leak. We would have to put up a new thatched roof now, when we are so busy in the fields. The little boy listened to the lonely wail of the wind as it whipped through the bamboo grove. He shivered and turned to look at his grandfather's face. It was calm and smiling and unafraid. Oji-san, the little boy said suddenly, is there anything you are afraid of? The old man laughed. Why, of course, lad, he said. There are many things a man fears in life. Well then, said the little boy, what are you most afraid of in the whole world? The old man rubbed his bald pate and thought for a moment as he puffed on his pipe. Let me see, he said. Among human beings, I think I fear the thief most. While the old man was saying this, a thief had climbed onto the roof of the cowshed, hoping to steal one of the cows. He heard what the old man said and thrust out his chest proudly. So, he thought to himself, I am the very thing the old man fears most in the whole world. He laughed to think how frightened the old man and woman would be if they only knew a thief was in their yard this very minute. Oji-san, the little boy went on, of all the animals in the world, which one are you most afraid of? The old man thought for a moment and then said, I think I fear the wolf most. Just as the old man said this, a wolf was prowling around the cowshed looking for some chickens he might steal. When he heard what the old man said, he laughed to himself. Aha, he said, I am the animal the old man fears the most. Wiggling his nose, he sniffed haughtily. But inside the house, the little boy went on. Oji-san, he said, even more than a thief or a wolf, what are you most afraid of? The old man thought for a long while, and thoughts of ogres and terrible dragons filled the little boy's head. But the old man was listening to the rain as it splashed and trickled in rivulets of water around the house. He thought again how terrible it would be to have a leak in his roof. He turned to the boy and said, well, the one thing I fear the most of all right now is a leak. And I am afraid one may come along any minute. Now, when the thief and the wolf heard this, they did not know the old man was talking about a leak in the roof. A leak? Thought the thief. What horrible animal could that be? If the old man fears it more than a thief or a wolf, it must be a fearsome thing. Down below, the wolf thought the same thing. A leak must be a dreadful creature if the old man fears it more than me or a thief, he thought. He peered into the darkness, wondering if a leak might not spring out of the forest, for the old man had said one might come any moment. Up on the roof of the cowshed, the thief got so excited he slipped and tumbled down into the darkness. Instead of falling on the ground, he fell right on the back of the wolf. The wolf gave a frightened yelp. From somewhere above him in the dark, something had leaped on his back and was clutching his neck. This must be the frightening leak the old man was talking about, thought the wolf, and with his tail between his legs, he ran pell-mell into the woods. Now, the thief did not know he had landed on the back of a wolf. He knew he had fallen on something large and cold and full of fur. What's more, it had given a wild yelp and began to run. The thief was so frightened he could not even call for help. Instead, he clung to the neck of this creature that seemed to be flying through the night into the forest. I must be on the back of the terrible leak the old man was talking about. He thought fearfully, and closing his eyes tight, he hung on. The harder the thief clung to the wolf's neck, the faster the wolf ran. As they got deeper and deeper into the forest, branches of trees swung low and scratched the thief's face. Finally, he felt a big branch sweep past. He caught it and swung himself up into a tree. But the wolf ran on and on until he came to his cave at the farthest end of the forest. When he finally stopped, he realized the thing on his back was gone. The leak has dropped off somewhere, he thought, and he sighed, a great sigh of relief. Early next morning, the wolf went to see his friend, the tiger. Mr. Tiger, I had a terrible fright last night, he said, panting at the very thought of it. Do you know what kind of creature a leek is? Why, I believe I never heard of anything called a leek, he said. What is it? It is something human beings fear more than anything else in this world, said the wolf. And do you know one of those terrible creatures jumped on my back last night? I ran all night with this leek hanging onto my neck, for it clutched at me and almost choked me to death. The tiger grunted sympathetically. Ah, how terrible that must have been, he said. The wolf took a deep breath and went on. The leek dropped off somewhere after I got into the forest. If we don't capture it, none of us will be safe. Will you help me find it? The tiger nodded. Certainly, I'll help. Besides, I'd like to see what a leek looks like. I wonder if it has two heads. And so the tiger and the wolf set off to look for the terrible leek. As they prowled through the forest, a monkey sitting in a tree peered through the leaves and saw them below. Say, Mr. Tiger, Mr. Wolf, he called, where are you going with such worried frowns on your face? We are searching for a thing called a leek, they answered. It is something so terrible that human beings fear it more than a thief or a wolf. It is the most fearsome thing in the world, and we cannot live safely in this forest until we capture it. A leek? Asked the monkey. Why, I've never heard of such a creature. You must be mistaken. But the wolf shook his head. No, I am not mistaken, for this very creature clutched at my throat and rode on my back all the way into the forest last night. It dropped off somewhere, and it must be hiding near this very minute. Now the monkey had seen the wolf running through the forest the night before, with the thief hanging onto his neck. He suddenly realized that this terrible thing they feared was only a human being. So he said in a loud, bragging voice, Why, if that is the thing you are searching for, there he is, sitting on one of the branches of the tree over there. I shall go and capture him single-handedly if you want me to. Sure enough, there on one of the branches of a tree sat a creature, looking somewhat like a human being. The tiger growled and bared his long, sharp teeth. The wolf looked up at the sky and howled a long, piercing yowl. The thief heard their cries, and trembling with fear, he fell off the branch and went tumbling into a hole in the trunk of the tree. The three animals ran over to the tree and stood around the hole where the thief was hiding. "Now, how shall we capture this leak?" they said to one another. "Whoever captures him will become the king of the forest," said the tiger, "for he will be the bravest and strongest of all." "That's an excellent idea," said the monkey. Then, because he knew that the leak was only a human being who was frightened himself, he marched right up to the hole, thrust his tail inside, and flipped it about, saying, "Are you there, Mr. Leak?" The thief heard the animals and thought, "It will never do to let them capture me. I shall frighten them with this." He grabbed the monkey's tail and pulled it hard and growled and shouted fiercely, trying to sound more terrible than the tiger and the wolf. "Help!" shouted the monkey as the man pulled harder and harder. The monkey pulled even harder, and they both pulled so hard that the monkey's tail broke off within a snap. "My tail! My tail! My beautiful tail!" he shrieked and ran off into the forest, disappearing into the leaves of a cedar tree. "The leak certainly is a fearful thing," said the wolf, shaking his head, and with a great howl he ran off into the woods after the monkey. "It's best to leave such a fearful thing alone," said the tiger in a soft voice, and he went slinking off into the woods after the monkey and the wolf. When all the animals had gone, the thief crept out carefully to make sure that nothing was following him, and then he ran as fast as he could out of the forest. The thief never learned that what he thought was the terrible leak was only a frightened wolf, and the wolf never discovered that the most terrible thing in the world was only a frightened thief. The little boy and his grandparents did not have to be afraid of a leak in the roof after all, for in the stillness of night the rain stopped, the moon came out bright and clear, and the next days were full of promise of sunshine.